Yes, sir.
Elliot Tritta with the Gainesville Sun. So Florida CFO Blaise Ingoglia said that DOGE team found $80 million in excessive spending in Alachua County on Thursday. I was wondering if I can get your response on that.
Well, Blaise Ingoglia is a very hard-charging chief financial officer. You guys, the taxpayers, you should be thankful that he's there. He's really doing a good job. And, you know, the reality is just, and this is not unique to Alachua County, although I will say, you know, as local governments go, you know, yours is a little interesting compared. It is what it is, you know. It's just you can kind of tell with the dynamics at play. But you know, we've just in a situation where because we've seen an increase in property values, an increase in people moving to Florida, which I am not like asking for because like honestly, like we've got a lot of people. And so I'm not like saying please move because, you know, like, you know, you got to kind of get sea legs on some of this stuff. But the reality is just especially during COVID, you know, we were the refuge, right? And so people chose to do that. So people had homes that maybe they bought in 2010 for like $300,000 that are now being appraised at $800,000. Okay, well, they didn't sell it for $800,000, but they're being told it's worth so much more. So even if you have a homestead protection, you're going up 3% a year, like clockwork. And then, heaven forbid, I mean, just think like, you know, if you had somebody that gets recruited to come to the university from another part of the state, they sell a home they want to buy, well, that tax base is going to be a lot higher. So then you end up having to pay property tax at this much higher valuation. And that's pinching a lot of people, which is a problem. And so I'm somebody that has been, you know, very clear. I don't want people to be driven out of their house because of property taxes. It's ridiculous that that would be happening in this state. So our vision's very simple. You know, the local governments, we don't get any revenue from property tax. We don't administer property tax. It's a local function. We need to deal with it through a ballot initiative, which we are working on and we'll put on the ballot in 26. So you'll have an opportunity to vote. You know, but my vision is, you know, if a local government, you know, wants to tax the commercial stuff, they want to tax snowbird properties, Airbnbs, whatever, you know, that's one thing. But your personal residence, you know, as a homesteaded Floridian, you know, we want you to own that tax-free. And I think that'd be tremendous if we were able to do that. Now, to get there, people are going to say, well, if you now what some people are saying is saying like, you know, if you eliminated everything on everything, like, look, if I were starting society from scratch, I would not tax property. I would tax consumption, but that we're not there. So we got to work with what we do. How do we get Floridians, you know, this protection and this relief? And so you look at the local governments, what has been fueling the increased spending has been the rising receipts. Now, some places raise the millage. Some places just leave the millage alone. But the problem with leaving it alone is people are paying more as a result of that because they're valuing it higher. It's like an unrealized gain. You know, it's one thing if like I buy something at the store and you pay sales tax, okay, then I buy the same thing 2 months from now, and if the price of that good went up, then maybe I have to pay a little higher. But these aren't transactions. They're just telling you your property's worth so much more. And what goes up does go down, by the way. There are a lot of people that had high valuations in Florida in 2007. Then you fast forward a couple years, 2010, those valuations weren't as good. And so these things just happen. But one of the things I think we've seen is a big explosion in spending at the local level. And I'm all for saying, you know, schools, public safety, fire, police, you know, the water management stuff. I mean, the core things we support. But you can do that without having a 60% in, like Broward County down in South Florida. No population increase in the last 5 years. Their budget's gone up 60%. So the question would be is if they had the same budget level that they had before, would the sky fall? I don't think the sky would fall at all, but that would be able to give you this massive relief. So I think what Blaise is doing is he's showing that, that this can be done, that the amount that you're paying to local government is not 100% being used for the things that we all care about and talk about. There's other things that they're spending the money on, and especially on some of the salaries and the staff for some of the people that work in these bureaucracies. I mean, some of the county administrators, are making like $280,000, $300,000. I don't know. I mean, like, it is what it is. So is that would you want to pay property tax to fund that, or would you rather dial that back and you get a tax cut? I mean, like, it's just, we can make these arguments, right? But I think what Blaise is doing is he's really been leading the charge on DOGE. Now, we're DOGing, by the way, we're DOGing state stuff too. We're DOGing the universities, and we're gonna have a report on that probably sometime this fall. We DOGE state agencies. We're trying to use things like artificial intelligence to add to our review, because we review all this stuff anyways, but we're adding. So we're going to talk more about some of those findings as well. So it's not just local governments. And so sometimes people say, oh, well, the state, why do you care about local? You guys should. Well, first of all, the state of Florida, as I mentioned, our rainy day fund's maxed out. We have no income tax. We've cut taxes by $8 billion since I've been governor. We have massive budget reserves. We have a AAA credit rating. But get this, even with supporting the universities, even with supporting infrastructure, Everglades restoration, all the things we're doing, the current year budget is spending less than the year before, and that year before spent less than the year before that. How many other states are doing that 3 years in a row? Not a lot. So when they try to act like you should be, focused just on, like, we are looking at the agencies 100%, because as good as we've done, we can always do better, and we want to do better. But, like, let's just be clear here. You look at the last 3 years. Now, we did have an increase in the non-budgeted stuff during COVID, because you know what? When people were sick, I set up clinics for monoclonal antibodies for people. And I'm glad I did that, because that saved a lot of people's lives. Costs money. We got reimbursed from the feds for it, but it costs money to do. And I'm happy to have done that. Happy to have helped, expand medical staff at some of our hospitals when we would have some of the high occupancy periods. They were in short supply. Unfortunately, it costs money to. So I was happy to do that. But, man, I don't know if there's any other place around that's done that. So Blaise is keying in on something that's really important. Now, I haven't reviewed the findings in Gainesville specifically, so I don't want to, pretend like I'm as up. But I know we are going to have some more announcements that are going to really unveil even more significant findings from what these DOGE teams have done. And, we have a great opportunity as well. We're probably the only, when you talk about the property tax, we're probably the only state in the country that could pull it off. Why? Because we have more revenue goes to local governments from non-homesteaded residential properties than our homesteaded residential property. Why? Because you have snowbirds. You've got wealthy people that stay here three months of the year. I'd rather Floridians pay less and they pay the tax. I mean, like, why would we not want to look out for our own? These Airbnbs. It's like some people, like some whole neighborhoods are like Airbnbs, or some of these. Look, it's hard to kind of. I know there's like it's a tricky thing, because there's some want to regulate at the state level, some want local, whatever. But if you did a property tax situation where if you actually live in your home, you're not paying tax, and the Airbnbs are paying tax, isn't that going to help put the thumb on the scale for traditional home ownership without having to have a big regulatory morass or bureaucracy? Yeah, it will align incentives, I think, better. So I think a lot of Floridians are like, people can do what they want. If someone wants to buy homes and invest, like, that's fine, but it's like, we have entire neighborhoods that are doing this. How does that affect prices for young families that want to afford a home? I mean, to me, it's like, elderly have to be able to stay in their homes. If they're being driven out because of the high taxes and other costs. I mean, let's just be clear. This is the worst period of inflation since COVID, since the 1970s. Grocery prices, all the things that have impacted this. The one thing we control is taxes, though, and so we can do something about it. But I want elderly to be able on fixed income. But I also want young people to be able to have a chance here. And, if somebody is like, and maybe the homes will become more affordable as the market changes, because there are changes afoot, I think, but they get in, if they're able to, not have to pay $2,500 or $3,000 a year in taxes just to live, It's not going to be good for them and their ability to raise a family? Yeah, I think it would be. So those are the people that I really want to help in all this. Those are the people that we should be fighting for, and that's what we're going to be looking to do. So stay tuned on the DOGE. We've got a lot more findings that are going to come out. We've had a lot of people that have been working very hard on this, and it's not limited to local governments. We will have findings for state agencies, and we will have findings for universities.